What's going on, guys? It's 303 Jags fan here today. Um, Obviously, we're a day removed from our first preseason game last night against the Miami Dolphins, and I just wanted to come on here today and talk to you guys about the preseason game a little bit. But first, before I get into the game, I wanted to share something with you guys, something I don't think you guys knew that I had, and I forgot to mention in my last video, and I can't believe I forgot it because it's a pretty huge deal. It has been a long time coming. I'll preface it by saying that. I'm 19 years old, for those of you who don't know. And all my life, I've been a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, die hard, as you know. This year, for the first time, I became a Jaguar season ticket holder. And I gotta tell you, it feels great. It was a pretty awesome day, calling the ticket office and ordering them. Telling a little bit about myself, about my story. That's maybe another video for another day, but I just wanted to prove it to you guys. Here are the tickets right here. All the games, all 9 of them. Obviously, this Miami game I had to sell, unfortunately. It'll be the only game I missed this year. Killed me to not be there with everyone. In Section 124, the Cage of Rage, the Bold City Brigade. That's where we'll be sitting. And, of course, we'll be tailgating with the Teal Street Hooligans on Duval Street. And it's going to be a great time. But, like I said, it killed me to not be there last night. It's the only ticket I'm going to have to sell this year. But it's a preseason game. I'll live, and I'll be there in 2 weeks in Philadelphia. I will be at Everbank Field. I will be there for all the home games for the remainder of the year. And I got to tell you, man, it feels great. Like I said, Section 124 for those of you guys who want to hit me up. Hit me up with a comment if you guys are season ticket holders. I know I have fans on here who are, and I'd love to meet some of you guys next year. So let me know. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. My little bundle of season tickets there. Pretty exciting for me, and I can't wait to get down there and watch some games with you guys. Anyway, moving on to the game. I gotta kind of move this along here because I got a lot of things to talk about, obviously. The first preseason game. So, to begin, the topic everyone wants to talk about, because probably the most important about this team right now, the quarterback situation, right? We had Chad Henne, we had Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert started the game last night and was not very good. That's just the way it is. 5 of 10 for 19 yards isn't exactly what you want from your quarterback, even in a preseason game. I think, to a degree, it wasn't all Blaine's fault. The interception certainly wasn't his fault. But that's what he gets for checking it down to the fullback every play. Lots of check downs as usual. I think part of that was to blame on Jed Fish a little bit. I would have liked to have seen us trust the tackles a little bit more with some more traditional 5-step drops, rather than play fakes and, quick passes. One of the only real good throws he completed was to Mike Brown on that quick curl on the left side. Other than that, his passes were all dump downs in the flat. And at the same time, he didn't really have a whole lot of chance to just take a shotgun snap and let the tackles in the offensive line face the Dolphins' 4-man rush and just air it out. He did have a few plays. One was the one where he totally sailed it over Mike Brown's head on the left side, or was it Ace Sanders? I forget. But it was a terrible throw. And then, the back shoulder to Brown on the left sideline was just well defended. And, that's a tough throw to make. Can't really blame that on either guy. And it was pretty covered up downfield on that play. Henne, though, was pretty good. 8 of 11 for 87 yards. Not spectacular by any means, but better than Blaine Gabbert. At the same time, he was facing a lot of Miami's 2s. Blaine had to face the 1s for the most part. But Henne was better than Gabbert, and probably, as a result, earned the start next week against the Jets. So we're probably going to see Chad with the 1s next week, which will be interesting to see. I'm all for the best man winning. I think I said in my last video I expected Henne to probably start the year. I think he gives us a slightly better chance to win. But at the same time, I'm with you guys in that I know a lot of people will say Blaine has more upside. How can you say that? What's the point of starting Henne? We know what he is. Yeah, that's all true. But I think that probably the way Gus Bradley's going to look at it is the way I'm looking at it, which is whoever gives us the best chance to win is going to start. Whoever wins the quarterback job in preseason, if Gabbert comes out and throws 5 and 10 for 19 yards every week, he's not going to win the quarterback job. Straight up. That's the way it's going to be. As for the other quarterbacks, I think Matt Scott looked okay. He was okay in mop-up time at the end there. Mike Kafka's absolutely terrible. I seriously think my arm might be stronger. I mean, he just was brutal last night. Then there's really no sense in him taking reps away from Matt Scott when we take Henny and Blaine out of there. So I think that Mike Kafka probably needs to hit the road or just stay on the bench for the rest of the preseason. As for the rest of the offense, I thought Ace and Denard looked awesome. Very excited about them. Ace actually did a nice job getting separation with the press and playing on the outside, which is something that you didn't see him do a whole lot at South Carolina. I think obviously he's more effective in the slot, which is why he's going to play there for us. But with Blackmon out and Shorts out, you saw Ace out there in the slot. So obviously I'm excited about them. Denard Robinson had some awesome plays. The one that comes to mind was, I think, a stretch play to the left, probably in the second quarter. Brewster got blown up in the backfield, and basically the play was shot to hell, and Denard, bounces it back, takes it the opposite direction up, and it turns into a first down. So I think we have a lot to be excited about with those guys. We're going to continue to watch them in the preseason. I think Denard is already a more advanced as a running back than I would have expected with his vision and cutting. I think that that's going to bode well for him, especially in this zone system that Jed Fish has. He's going to be really effective. I think that he is a guy who finds daylight in the smallest places, and when you think they have him, they don't. And so he's going to be fun to watch as a supplement to MJD and Forsett this coming season. As for the O-line, I thought that they were okay. I thought Monroe played very well, as usual. I thought Joko was welcomed to the NFL by Cameron Wake a few times. That's to be expected. He played all right. Brewster and Rackley were probably the weak links. I saw, the one play that comes to mind was the read option, where Rackley, the one read option play we ran with Denard in the shotgun, Rackley basically olays this guy, and the play was dead before it even started. And Brewster, he played all right too. Obviously, Meester's going to be the guy starting there, so Brewster's getting some reps when Meester gets the game off. One thing I would like to see, who's going to step up as a tight end. Other than Mercedes Lewis, who's going to step up as that number 2 guy, Maybe Ryan Otten, the undrafted kid, who a lot of people were high on coming out. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see who steps up. I know Otten's had some drops in camp and in the scrimmage that make people think he may not be as good as we thought originally. And other than that, the rest of the wide receivers is pretty lackluster. Mike Brown had a few okay plays. He's probably the next best guy behind those, obviously the big ones with Justin, Cecil, Ace, and maybe Shipley's in there. Mike Brown's probably in there. Massaquoi, was that guy even playing last night? Certainly Massaquo's not a guarantee to make the roster no matter what people may think. I think that he's going to be a guy who needs to show up, or he's going to be on the bubble when it comes down to it at the end, when it's time for final cutdowns. So we'll see what happens with the wide receivers. I think we have a solid few with Ace, Cecil, and Justin whenever Justin comes back. But somebody needs to step up opposite Cecil while Justin has that 4-game suspension, guys. Whether that's Massaquoi, whether that's Mike Brown, whether Ace is going to play more outside than we think, whether that's Shipley. Both those guys are really slot guys, though. I think that, it's going to be interesting to see who steps up, because I don't think Tony Clemens is a guy who's really going to provide much for us, even though he's probably got the more ideal size than those 2 guys. Tobias Palmer didn't really show much yesterday as a receiver. He's the undrafted kid out of NC State, who a lot of people are high on. Obviously, he's a speedster, and he had a decent punt return, but he also muffed one, and that doesn't bode well for him at all. Especially for a guy who's trying to make the team like that, you don't want to see those muff punts. I'm already 10 minutes in. I've been trying to talk fast, but let's talk about the defense now. Derek Marks, I think, was the first guy who really stands out. Obviously, it was one of the first plays. He gets a sack. He made it a long night for that Dolphins interior offensive line. I really like the Marks and Miller tandem. Roy Miller, the guy we signed, big fella from Tampa Bay. They're just so much quicker off the snap than Alualu and Knighton were last year. I think that it's so noticeable when you watch the games, and I think Kyle Love's a solid player too. Obviously, Brandon Diedrich and Jeremy Mincy were out for this game. It'll be interesting to see when Diedrich gets thrown in there to the mix. And some of the undrafted kids who played D-tackle I thought played okay too. I honestly can't remember their names right now. I know Big 98, he looks like John Henderson out there. He got his hands up and batted a ball down. I think that guy's probably 6, 7, or 8. He's a mastodon, just like Big John. Kind of a poor man's Big John, so to speak. But the rest of the D-line, I thought Babin played pretty good. He pushes up the field pretty well. If we can push the pocket up in the front, in the middle, Babin is going to probably get around the edge and have a few sacks this year. You expect double digits, but we'll see. He's going to be that Leo position, though, who's really going to provide the majority of the rush for us on the edge. I thought Ryan Davis, a guy who we signed last year, played pretty well last night. I thought Penel Egbo, the guy who was one of those camp tryout guys with the 90-man rosters earlier in the offseason, who's a guy who Gus Bradley brought on, played awesome too. I think that he's a huge dude. I mean, probably 6'6", long arms. He really extends and gets into the tackle and defends the run really well. So I think that he's a guy who has a chance to make this team as that 5 technique player because, that's the 5 technique, being the head up on the tackle on the other side of the Leo defensive end and Gus Bradley's defense. Then obviously you have your 3-and-1 techniques on the inside, which would be Marks and Roy Miller. I think Egbo is going to be a good candidate for rotation in that 5 technique role. He may even fit it better than Jeremy Mincy, which you could see Mincy being released at some point. I would not be surprised at all if that happened. Unfortunately, Mincy just doesn't really fit that well into this defense. Probably not a good enough edge rusher to be Leo, and probably not big enough to hold up against the run at the 5 technique on the other end. So, when that happens, it doesn't look good. Andre Branch, I'm not sure if that guy's alive or if he's out there sleepwalking or what. He had one play, obviously, on an X stunt where he came around through the A gap and made a play. I think it was actually a 2-yard gain. Probably he reacted as if it was a sack, but it wasn't. That was early in the game, and then he really didn't do much the rest of the night. He's going to be a guy who really needs to start stepping up too, or probably isn't going to be released in his second year, but down the roads, you never know. Paul Hazel, he's that tiny DN. I think he wears 79. He's the undrafted kid out of Western Michigan. I thought he looked really good as well. He had a really nice inside move on a couple of plays, and he even played decent against the run, just pursuing the backside, chasing down plays not towards him. Obviously, he's going to have a tough time holding up at, 230, 240 pounds against NFL offensive tackles, but I thought he played really well, and he could be a practice squad guy. As for the DBs, I think Gratz and Ball played really well. I think we're going to have a pretty solid corner tandem this year. Obviously, Gratz had the 1 interception, which was awesome to see for the rookie. Chris Brzezinski's terrible. We already knew that. And that just solidified it even more last night. Not really a guy I foresee making the team. At least I hope not, because really he doesn't bring much at all. Let's see. Mike Harris was a guy who I thought, he played okay last night. He probably could have played better. Wasn't one of his best games. I didn't really see much of Demetrius McCray and Jeremy Harris, the 2 7th-round rookies. To be completely honest with you, I didn't see much of them on the field. But who else? Josh Evans, the 6th-round pick from Florida, I thought played okay. Didn't really make a whole lot of flashy plays, but he was out there, and he didn't make any plays that made you really scratch your head. I think he's better than, obviously, Chris Brzezinski is, and will continue to develop. It'll be nice to get Cyprian back whenever he finally heals up. Linebackers, I think Paz is still the best player on our defense. He played great. He had some just monster. If you watch Paz, the way he fills that hole and takes on those fullbacks. He doesn't lose any ground. He's a rock for our defense. I think that Russell Allen and Geno Hayes played pretty well too in their limited time. Leroy Reynolds is an undrafted kid who I like to keep an eye on. He played pretty well last night, I thought. I think he'll be a good addition to special teams. He definitely has a chance to make the team. As a special teams guy, probably not going to play much on the actual defense right away, but he's a developmental guy. Julian Stanford played pretty well too. Another special teams type of guy who is going to get some reps in the preseason at linebacker. And Brandon Marshall, our 5th-round pick from last year out of Nevada, has really showed up, guys. This was a guy who I was not expecting to really do anything. Probably a very long shot to make the team at best this year. But in camp he's been great. In the scrimmage he was great, and last night he was good. He's really feeling hard, making some plays. Pretty good tackler from what I've seen. But for a guy who couldn't even get on the field last year, when we were pretty banged up at linebacker, couldn't even be active on game day, and even really play special teams much. He's really made strides. Something happened this offseason. Somebody lit a fire under Brandon Marshall, and he's, as far as I'm concerned, he's making the team. He's on a mission, and if he doesn't make this team, he'll make somebody else's team because he's playing really well, and that's nice to see. You know what? I forgot to mention one guy on the defensive line, which is DeAnthony Smith, speaking of guys who haven't showed up in the past, but he was great last night. He had some nice pressure up the middle, and I think it looks to me like DeAnthony's put on some weight. You guys can tell me if you think the same. He just looks bigger out there, and I think it's serving him well because he really held his ground well on the inside last night, and obviously he had the sack. DeAnthony Smith, if he can stay healthy, is what we always say every year, but if he can stay healthy, he could help this team and be in that defensive tackle rotation. And that'd be great to see. I'd like to see DeAnthony be able to stay healthy this year. But on to, what else? What did I forget? Special teams, I guess you could say. I don't know why Adam Yates is on the team. He was a terrible kicker for us at South Carolina last year. Not sure why we think he's going to be any good in the NFL. He missed, like a 40-yarder last night. Pretty standard Adam Yates material, and he won't make the team. For punt returners, Ace is going to break one this preseason, guys. I'm telling you. Just wait. And you could see it last night. He was this close. He's so damn shifty when he gets those punts. It's unbelievable. He's going to be fun to watch as our punt returner this year. Unfortunately, Tobias Palmer muffed that punt. That doesn't bode well for him. Jamal Miles muffed a punt too. For a guy like Jamal Miles, who really hasn't showed up that much as a wide receiver either, to muff that punt, long shot at best to make the team. And I thought Brian Anger actually punted pretty bad last night. Nothing really special from him. But I think that pretty much sums up special teams. And then the Justin Blackmon incident, of course, which is something that everyone wanted to ask me about last night on Twitter. He apparently got in a spat with one of the Dolphins players. Jason Babin tried to intervene, said, "Listen, you're suspended for 4 games, you need to shut your mouth." And Blackmon obviously snapped back at Babin, and you don't want to do that. We don't need that crap on the team. Justin Blackmon needs to cool it. I know Gus Bradley took him off the field and then had a little talk with him after the game in his office. Is it a huge deal? No, but it just shows you that, Blackmon, it's frustrating because, he's acting like kind of a shithead, and he could really help us this year and down the line if he keeps his nose clean. We all know he needs to clean up his act or he's not going to be around very long in Jacksonville, just like the first-round receivers before him, unfortunately. So next week, obviously, we got the Jets on the road. I think the quarterback situation is going to be fun to watch. We got to see, will it be Henny or Gap? That sounds so terrible. Chad Henne or Blaine Gabbert, who would you rather have? Pick your poison. It's a crapshoot, guys, but hey, this is what we have. This is what we have to roll with. and we'll see who the best man is, who the one standing at the end is. And like I said, my bet is Chad Henne, but we'll see. If it's Blaine, great. Guys, I'm sorry I had to talk so fast. I'm a little disoriented right now after talking about all that, and I'm already 20 minutes in, so I need to cut this thing. But I will be on again soon. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we got the Jets next week. Obviously, I'll be checking in with you then. Until then, if you're a Jags fan, signing off.